Let's not keep Jill waiting very long. We do have a caller, and we'll get to the hotline as well. 772-335-2401. Hi, Jill. Welcome to Real Radio.
Hi.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before.
Oh, there's nothing to be nervous about. It's just us talking.
Yeah, we're experts. We'll guide you through it. It won't hurt. Trust me.
I've heard that before. I do want to start out by saying that I am the best friend-in-law of Acker. I don't know if that gives any points or takes them away, but I do want to throw that out there.
You're what? Wait. We have an emailer by the name of Acker. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm the best friend-in-law of Acker.
Oh.
In all the time.
Okay.
Now is Acker, and you may or may not remember, Acker is the guy who bought the Wizard of Oz pinball machine.
I was just going to say he's the pinball
He's
fan
the
that's
pinball
called
guy.
us.
Yeah, and didn't he pay some like $7,500 for it?
It was like 10 G's.
10? Was it really?
Yeah.
Limited edition. Okay, so far it hasn't hurt you, Jill.
Okay, good. Okay.
We'll be gentle.
Thanks. Acker's never gentle, so you don't have to be.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we know how it is with those friends and in-laws.
Okay.
I said that for him. I knew he'd get a laugh. Okay, so I'm calling because I know that is Me Too the topic today.
Well, not necessarily a topic. We don't land on one thing, but you're more than welcome to discuss whatever you would like. So is Me Too what you want to talk about?
Yeah, it is. And actually a facet of that is very misunderstood. So I am a victim of incest, and because of that, I developed something called Dissociative Identity Disorder, which is otherwise known as multiple personality disorder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This runs along similar lines, and I hate to even exemplify it, but there was a pretty famous movie made about this. Am I wrong, Jill?
And it was crap. Yeah, it was so crap.
Sybil. It was the movie I was talking about with Sally Field.
Yeah, well, Sybil and then Split. Well, I can't speak for Sybil just because it's so old and they didn't know much then. But Split is the new movie that had come out.
Okay.
And then The United States of Terror, the TV show on Showtime.
Yes, Split, by the way, had James McAvoy in it, also known as Professor X, and it's in the Unbreakable M. Night Shyamalan series of movies, so there's tie-ins there. And now, how, Jill, because I've seen Split, and I thought Split was fantastic. How does that portray your dissociation?
Movie. Yeah, for cinema, fantastic. But so I want to just go ahead and get some things out of the way. First of all, we don't wear costumes when we split. We don't go, I'm splitting, let me run in the dresser and throw on a new outfit. It doesn't work like that.
Okay, but
in fact,
in the movie Split, so when James McAvoy was having an episode, he would go and change his clothes so that he identified with the person that he became?
Yeah.
Right.
Like he would wear a dress.
So,
if he
was the little girl, there's a
Right.
woman personality. Okay, all right. Let me ask you this question, Jill. How many personalities have you been diagnosed as having?
30. But here's another misconception.
Yeah.
So we actually don't even call them personalities anymore. We call them parts, because usually only a handful are full-on split personalities. So I've only got about 4 full-on live day-to-day personalities. Now, the rest aren't full splits, so they can either take on for a little while as their job needs to be done. Like if they're a protector and I'm in harm, they'll come out for a little while, but just pop right back in. They can't live day to day.
Okay.
One of the first questions that comes to mind is, can you sense or feel when the split is coming, when you're going to evolve into another part?
Good question.
I'm glad you asked that. It depends on where you are in treatment and how close you are to that part. So there's parts that I know very well, and then there's parts that I don't even know exist.
Wow.
And they keep it that way on purpose. The whole thing is called a system. And so it's very intricate on purpose, because if you think about it, we were created while we were in grave danger. And it had to be sneaky. It had to be secret. It had to be protected. So if I knew that I was going to split before I split, I would have just told my abuser probably, because he was my father and I trusted my father, right?
Oh my God.
But otherwise, if I didn't know that I had a system, then I didn't know I was being abused. That's the whole point, is so that the parts take the abuse for the victim, and the victim lives their life never knowing they're abused until the parts think it's okay for them to tell them, and they start showing themselves.
How old were you when this first showed, when you first showed the signs of this?
Actually, it was in rehab, and I am 7 years clean. So 7
Congratulations.
Good for you. Congrats.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. But a very, very scary process, too.
Oh, I'll bet.
To all this. And they're not always people either.
Really?
I have a part that's a goldfish.
Now, when you go into the goldfish part, like when the goldfish takes over, what are your mannerisms? Do you
pucker your lips and go blah blah blah?
Glenn?
Yep.
Do you really?
Yeah, I really do. And I feel nothing, and I have no thoughts, because goldfish do not think. And so there's always a
Jimmy?
reason.
You son of a bitch. Do you ever have a memory of a split or a part?
Afterwards, you mean?
In other words, you revert back to Jill. Do you ever retain a memory of the parts?
So that's a great question, too. Again, this is where you are in therapy. I've got 7 years of it now, so I do have more memories. But there's two types of splits. There's a complete split. If you've ever heard somebody use the term lose time, I lost time, then you don't even know you split. Like, I've just woken up and been in the car 2 hours later and don't even remember leaving the house. And I don't know who came out. I've lost money before. My medication's been missing before. Those are the kinds of parts that I was saying you don't know you have.
Gotcha.
So no. But then as you work in therapy, the whole goal is what's called co-consciousness, where you build a trusting relationship with each part where you can at least be somewhat conscious. I was actually talking with Acker's wife today. I do have a part that's a child, which is very common, and she likes to call Shelby because we were best friends since we were 4. And I'll forget. I didn't know maybe that she called, but Shelby will tell me, and if she starts going through the conversation, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, now I remember that. Now I remember that."
All right, Jill, if you don't mind, just let me do this. For those of you that have just joined us, we're talking with Jill, who was referred to us by an emailer we have to the show, an often emailer, Acker, and she is discussing with us that she has, let me just simplify it for the folks out there, multiple personality disorder.
Right.
And we're learning instead of the different personalities that they're actually called parts. Jill here has 30 different parts.
including one being a goldfish?
That one is...
Right.
That's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. I'll give you that. Are you married?
Divorced.
Okay, you're divorced. Did your husband ever exhibit signs of fear when one of the parts came out?
My husband was a sociopath.
Oh, geez.
I actually think he actually used them to his advantage.
Oh,
I didn't know, but he caught on quick. They're for tips. So
for tips.
Yeah.
Tips on how to abuse you?
On how to use the
On how to
parts.
use the parts.
Use the parts when you're in another part at that time.
To
Okay.
to his advantage.
Gotcha.
He would.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's actually. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm glad I had the life I did, but because of it, like I can spot a sociopath a mile away. I can read people like a book. And these are all advantages that normal people would never have.
Right.
Now, I know you said you were 7 years clean. Where are you? And you've mentioned on a couple of the questions, it depends on where you are in treatment. Where are you in treatment? In other words, do you have complete control? Do you know the parts and how to contain them? Are you heavily medicated?
I'm heavily medicated.
You sound very lucid, by the way.
Yes, you do.
You sound incredibly lucid for somebody that's heavily medicated.
Well,
Yeah, and I will say that heavily medicated to me probably does not mean the same to anybody else. I'm a bit of a purist, and I've tried to do this on my own. It just doesn't work. It's mainly anxiety, and anxiety brings them on. So that's really where my medication comes in. I would say about every 3 years I have to take, trips in and out of the hospital for 6 months to get stabilized again and change the medication, because as my treatment goes further along, my medication needs to change. I am in the process of treatment called integration. There's 3 steps. The first is stabilizing the system. It's getting the parts to come show themselves, to build a relationship. The second is dealing with the trauma, and you have to get the system ready first, because if you deal with the trauma and there's parts that don't even know they were traumatized, all hell's going to break loose. And then I'm in the third and final step of integration, which is getting all the parts to work together to be one person.
Okay.
Roughly, how many times a day do you slip into one of your other parts? Is there
or does the medication negate you splitting it all?
Right.
It's not. That's a great question. Actually, I never thought about it until you asked that. But the answer is the medication is not to keep from switching. I'm going to switch. Now, I won't do a full switch unless I'm in like fight or flight.
Okay, you're protecting for sure.
Right, but it is a fluid thing. The parts come and go and come and go and come and go. And that's the one thing that I really want people to know is if you know somebody with DID, you probably don't know that they have DID.
All right, I don't want you to think I don't want you to think I'm sounding flip here, but can you split parts on command? Like
I can, but I don't.
Okay, no, I wanted to know if you had the ability to say, okay, I want to go into this person, or I want to be the goldfish, and bam, there you are.
Yeah, and again, it depends on which ones I'm closer with. But
who's your closest?
Guy
or girl?
The little. Her name is Little Jill.
Little Jill.
Yeah, and she's probably been around the longest. So, and she's typical 6-year-old. She thinks she's the boss. She thinks she runs the show.
God, little does she know she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Luke, what's your question?
Now, as somebody with it's dissociative identity disorder, is that what the technical and most people misconstrue it as multiple personality disorder, but it's dissociative identity disorder. Do you have a job? Are you able to function like at a workplace environment, or is that off the table?
Not at the moment. I'm a hairstylist. I own my own salon. It just got to be too when I was going through the first phase of treatment, I wasn't dependable, and to be a hairstylist, you have to be dependable. Well, so I'm on disability now, but that is not a forever thing for me.
Did any of the parts surface while you were working on someone's hair?
So half their head is like an afro and half their head is like straight bangs?
No. The beauty of the way a system is built is there's different tiers of parts, and every part has a job. Every part. So only the parts that knew how to cut hair would come out. And because you switch so seamlessly, that's the thing I want people to know is that we switch seamlessly. Unless like I have a protector. I'm white. I'm a very curvy girl, and I have a protector that's a big black guy, right? Well, obviously my body doesn't change, but my mannerisms change, my voice changes. Now, if he comes out, you're going to know. But if a lot of the females come out, it's such a slight change. Before I was diagnosed, only 2 people knew that I didn't know, but they knew. One of my very best friends whose mom had it, and my mom. And that was it. So for 28 years, I slid under the radar.
Wow. Okay, Luke, man. You got a question?
Now Jill, have you, during the course of this conversation, has it been just Jill, or has there been intervention from some of the other parts?
Maybe not. I think we've heard from Jill, but has anybody knocked on the door? Let's say that.
Yeah.
There's been 2 people. You've talked to 2 people.
How about that? I knew.
Really?
I thought I discerned.
What was the other person? Who did we talk to? Because I couldn't tell the difference, Jill.
It's another Jill.
Oh.
With a different nickname, but I'm not at liberty to tell.
That's fine.
That's fine.
I wasn't trying to be intrusive. It's just
No,
unbelievable to me. How did you pick that out? Luke?
I just felt something during the course of the conversation, like it was a slight change in the way that you were
mannerisms?
talking, Jill, and
Presenting?
I just had to ask, and I mean,
But both Jills are pretty much familiar with what they are facing as far as diagnosis, and both of them can handle the different part personalities.
Yeah, we run pretty concurrently, and now I can look at pictures and see one of us is much more maternal, one of us is speaks a little slower, a little softer. One of us is more tattooed and rock and roll. So I can look at pictures and tell, like, just by the hairstyle which one it is.
Interesting.
But obviously, if you looked at the pictures, you'd be like, "Oh, they're all you."
Okay, when
I will tell you this, and Luke, I'm certainly not trying to one up you, but I did detect as I look back into the conversation, at some point your voice started getting a little bit shaky, and it was a different explanation than what we were first privy to.
Okay,
so it became different, but I didn't notice it. I just thought maybe nerves were setting in.
Yeah, I didn't notice it either.
But it was actually a different person, a different part.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Jill, this has been one of the absolute most fascinating conversations we have ever had on this show, and I can't even begin to tell you to thank you for opening up and sharing your dissociative identity disorder with us.
It took some courage, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm just glad that I could, get some truth out there, and I appreciate the platform.
And you and the 29 others are more than welcome here anytime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pick up the phone, call us anytime.
Except the goldfish.